Everyone please rise for the flag salute. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seated. Okay, roll call from the commissioners. We have Commissioner Durney.
Present.
Commissioner Kassenbaum.
Present.
Commissioner Curry. Present. Commissioner Hatley.
Present.
Chair Thornburg's present, and absent we have Phillips and Spoonmore. But we do have a quorum.
Correct.
Excellent. Oral communications, are there any speaker slips?
None off the agenda, but for the items we do have 3 speakers.
Okay, so we'll bring them up when the items come up. Approval of the minutes from October. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
All motion approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Minutes pass. Okay, new business. Excellent. We have the 23-24 TMPL projects.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ed Alberto, City Traffic Engineer, and here is our presentation on the 2023-24 Traffic Management Priority List. So we'll talk about the TMPL program, the TMPL scoring criteria, the projects for this round, and staff's recommendation. So the TMPL program has an annual budget of $50,000. Projects are initiated by the public. Policy and scoring criteria were established in 2014. Typically, our prioritization of projects are presented at the April Transportation and Community Safety Commission meeting. Then project selection and budget approval is typically approved at the July meeting. The scoring criteria is based on 4 categories: road condition, road usage, anticipated effectiveness, and problem severity, with the problem severity points being doubled. The maximum points a project could attain would be 30 points. There are 4 projects being nominated for this round of funding. The first at North Broadway and North Avenue intersection, that's for a crosswalk. Kayam Road for an LED curve warning signage. Golden Circle Drive for radar speed signs. And Classical Academy for a new crosswalk. The first project is at the intersection of North Broadway and North Avenue. This was nominated by Girl Scout Troop 2080 in August of 2022. The proposed crosswalk is located at an always stop controlled intersection. In November of 2021, staff conducted a walk audit of Rady Creek Elementary School. We observed heavy pedestrian crossing at this intersection, with parents parking on North Avenue and walking to school to meet their students. The 2021-2022 TMPL and 21-22 pavement rehab project made improvements for the North Broadway Elementary School. As part of those improvements, they modified the roadway striping between Rady Creek Elementary School and North Avenue, providing curbside student drop-off and pickup. You can see space was taken from the middle chevron lane in the middle to provide parking on both sides of the street. The intersection with the proposed crosswalk we would install a yellow continental-style crosswalk. There are existing curb ramps on either side, and the placement of the existing limit line sets up the location for the crosswalk with very minimal improvements other than striping. The estimated cost for this improvement is $3,000. The second project is on Kayam Road. The project was nominated by a resident of Kayam Road. There have been 3 reported collisions between 2016 and 2023. 2 collisions had occurred at night and 1 at sunset. Southbound South Broadway transitions into Kayam Road. There is a sharp curve at the crest of a steep grade where that transition occurs. And there is a 15-mile-an-hour advisory curve warning speed sign in advance of that curve. So this is a view at the intersection to the north of the curve. It's already on a steep grade, and as vehicles accelerate past the intersection, at the crest of the hill is where that sharp curve is located. The yellow dots are locations of the curve warning signs, and there's also 2 post-stop streetlights located on Cayam Road, just outside of the limits of where those signs are located. So staff is proposing to install solar-powered LED curve warning signs to improve the visibility of the curve warning signage at nighttime, and the estimated cost of these signs is $9,000. The next project is on Golden Circle Drive. Residents of Golden Circle have not nominated this project due to consistent speeding. The police department has been out there to enforce speeds and place the radar speed trailer. It is a residential street with a posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour. Speed data at various points along Golden Circle Drive between 2017 and 2022 show the 85th percentile speed between 31.5 and 40 miles per hour. And the roadway does have several horizontal and vertical curves along the corridor. Here you can see the path of Golden Circle Drive, where it meets Country Club Lane at the south and David Drive to the north. This is a view facing northbound from Felice, showing the grade going uphill northbound. And this is from, I believe, Barbara Drive on the north end of Golden Circle facing west, showing the horizontal and vertical curvature. Staff proposes to install 4 radar speed feedback signs on existing streetlight poles with an estimated cost of $14,000. The fourth project is Classical Academy. This was previously nominated last year for the 2022-23 TMPL funding. It did not make the list of funding last year, so it did roll over to this year's list. Classical Academy is a California TK through 8 public charter school with a 1,200 student enrollment with 700 maximum students on campus each day. Canyon Road is a residential street posted 25 miles an hour with a 32 mile an hour 85th percentile speed. The ADT is approximately 600 vehicles per day, and there's about 200 pedestrians crossing the intersection with Gretna Green Lane in the PM. And all school entrances open to Canyon Road. There's a view of the students crossing with the crossing guard at the intersection. So the proposed improvements for the school would be to install yellow Continental style crosswalks, new yield marking signs and school crossing pavement markings, double-sided warning signs and yield to pedestrian signage, as well as refreshing advanced school warning signs, and construction of 1 new curb ramp. The estimated cost for these improvements is $24,000. So staff's recommendation would be to recommend approval of all 4 projects and to approve the budget for the TMPL for 2023-24, given we have 4 projects and the estimated cost being the $50,000 budget. Questions?
Any public comment on this? Mr. Beck?
Yes, we have 3 public comments on this item. First is Haley Garvin. Hi, Haley. Would you like to come forward? Yeah.
So the Girl Scout Troop 2080 had to come up with a take action project of some way that they could improve their community. And most of the troop actually attends Rady Creek Elementary in North Broadway, so they're very familiar with that part of the neighborhood. And a lot of the kids there have felt that the crosswalk not being there is very dangerous. So they're just going to read what they wrote. They're very short. And then the girls that couldn't be here today because they had got out of school a little bit later, we have their papers for them to just read real quick. You want to start with yours? It's okay.
Oof. In my opinion, we should get a crosswalk at the intersection of North Broadway and North Avenue. I think this because kids and families have been almost hit by cars when they are trying to cross the street. And the principal has sent out an email to all parents. about the kids almost getting hit. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And your name? Maddie? Pleasure, Maddie. Thank you so much. Go for it. Yeah.
I feel that we need a crosswalk. Kids are almost getting hurt and they are getting almost murdered by cars. It's very scary. We
It's okay if you're all done. It's okay. Would you like to read one from Lenore?
Yeah.
So you can say Lenore said and read what she said. Amy, why don't you read it if you
Okay.
look herself?
Okay, so Lenore from our troop said, I really think you should put a crosswalk near Reedy Creek because kids could get hurt and the people in the car might not see them, so it is very important to add one.
Sedona said, my troop and I have a concern about kids like us almost getting hit by cars. We would like you to help us make a crosswalk for the kids to use after school. Thank you guys so much for your help. Sedona.
This person didn't write their name. This person did not write their name. They said, this crosswalk will help protect my friends. I don't think they finished.
From Anonymous.
I think that was Addie. It was Addie.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Lizzie said, in my opinion, a crosswalk should be added because it is important to stay safe when walking.
Reagan Frew said, in my opinion, there should be a crosswalk that's visible and a sign that warns cars about people crossing because some children have almost been hit and it is very unsafe.
Leilani said, if you are don't... Wait, what is that? If you don't put this crosswalk in, people will die.
Aria said, kids can get... What? Hit by cars. When they can cross it, can be safer if they wear a crosswalk? If there were a crosswalk. Wait, what is it? It's Crystal. I have to read it. It's okay. Wait, what is it? Just say Shyla. Wait, what does it say? Do you want Haley to read it? Yeah. Okay. Shyla said, I think the crosswalk should be put in for safety.
We also made a poster.
Yeah, we made a poster.
Very nice.
And these are pictures of where the crosswalk should be and where it isn't.
Thank you. Mr. Beck, should we keep that as documentation of this project?
We can, but I think they might want to hold on. I don't know if you need it for your Girl Scout purposes, whatever. I don't want to take it away from you unnecessarily, whatever you prefer. All right, yeah, not a problem.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah. Our next speaker is Mark Skvortko. Yeah.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you for the work you guys do to keep our city safe. Ed, thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. My wife and I live off of 6th Avenue, right here in Old Escondido. We love walking downtown. I have just a couple of attachments for you guys. This is relevant to the whole crosswalk discussion. As I was looking through some of the attachments from our reports, I saw an attachment from the city of San Diego on their crosswalk policy. I had emailed the city about a year back about this intersection that you see in the yellow box right there. That's 2nd and Calmia, right by our public library going into our downtown. So if you guys know where Escondido is, you know, your closest path from the library to Escondido, you know, say you're a mom parking there for the afternoon, you have to walk across 3 lanes of one way that usually cars are moving about 40 miles an hour, you know. Anecdotally, when we drive past that street, that's kind of the general flow of traffic there, even though it's posted to be lower. I had emailed the city about this crosswalk. They ran it through their points warrant analysis system, and by their system, we didn't meet the general criteria of points warrants for that crosswalk. I think we're far under the 16 points required if you run it through Escondido's policy. If you go to the next slide, Zach, here, you can see a comparison. Sorry, this is the intersection I'm talking about. We were walking there one day with my wife. You know, my wife is pregnant. We hope to raise lots of kids there and, you know, walk downtown all the time. We saw a mom with her 2 kids, probably about 6 and 8, jaywalking across the road, because that's the closest path to get downtown from the library. Yeah, and you can see there a map of downtown, and all those circles are crosswalks that are currently missing. So that's our core retail area. Our downtown right now is struggling to survive. You know, Plan 9 just cut their kitchen service. Barrel Republic went out of business last weekend. Kettle Coffee and Coffee Co. are both for sale. So we're talking 4 businesses that are struggling to survive. And if we can connect our residential neighborhoods via pedestrian walkways to our downtown, it's going to be better for all of Escondido, better for our business owners, and for the residents. If you go to the last slide there, Zach, you'll see a comparison of San Diego's policy. Real quick highlights. First off, in purple, you'll see a comparison of the vehicle or pedestrian volume warrant, and on the left is Escondido's policy, on the right is San Diego's. You'll see that for us to hit the 8 points in San Diego, you have to have 25 pedestrians per hour. In Escondido, you have to have over 3 times the amount, 90 pedestrians per hour to hit 8 points. You'll see in the green, we are completely missing in our policy a latent pedestrian demand warrant. So I had asked the city about this. Hey, do we have any kind of warrants for, hey, is this going to bring more people downtown? She said, we don't have that currently in our system. San Diego has a whole 10 points that are available to be used in lieu of the pedestrian volume warrant. So that's something we should consider as a city if we want to have crosswalks and pedestrian connectivity. If I have another, 40 seconds, I can go over the last couple.
Go ahead, yeah.
We've got a discrepancy in our general condition warrant. So if we zoom in there, you'll see that the nearest crossing is required to be 600 feet or farther in Escondido. In San Diego, that's 300 feet or farther. That's half the distance to get that warrant. You'll also see that we don't have this second warrant. The proposed crosswalk is located within a quarter mile of pedestrian attractors. So that would be a library, that would be downtown businesses. We have plenty of pedestrian attractors there. So that's a warrant that I believe highly that we should add to our system. And then if you look in the red box, that's just a general comparison of the available points we have between our gap time warrant and our general conditions warrant. In San Diego, we've got 28 total points for those 2 warrants. In Escondido, we only have 20 points. So essentially what you're seeing, it's incredibly difficult for us to get these pedestrian crosswalks to actually pass Escondido's warrant system. So I would highly encourage you guys to take a look at how we can change our policy to actually encourage having crosswalks. You know, this will affect not only downtown crosswalks, but these crosswalks that are close to elementary schools and elsewhere throughout the city. So thank you guys again for all your work, and hope we can figure out a system that works well for our downtown.
Thank you. Any other speakers, Mr. Beck? None? Okay. I suggest we table the gentleman's comments till after we finish our item that Mr. Ed has. We can talk about that new business.
Sure, but yeah.
I mean, we don't have a plan, another project to consider at this time for this particular item.
Right, but I would very much be interested in considering something downtown rather than the item on Kayam Lane, because that, when I'm looking at the number of people involved and stuff, I know that's not on the list right now, but
Right.
I would be interested, to see if we could even hold the funds from that and maybe apply this at a future meeting or something.
Let's talk policy, because I think this is our, obviously, projects you said are considered in April, which is they are now, so it may be too late to get it on this year's, but maybe next year's. I have a feeling Second Avenue, you're talking signals, because if you look at Second or Valley Parkway, you've got a lot more traffic. You've got higher speeds, so if you start, we didn't assess anything, but if we did, I can imagine it's going to warrant a signal or a ped crossing or rapid flashing beacon, which is going to be much more expensive, and that's a different subject altogether, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I think we should consider this item here, and if we want to withhold some of these projects, and maybe we can roll some of the money over the next year, that's fine, so,
Agreed.
okay. So can you go back to the first project?
Sure.
Which is North Broadway? Any comments on this one?
Yeah, if we don't do this, I quit. And when
Thank you.
we go do this, I want to go out there and help paint.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, these kids were awesome. Thank you very much.
Yes. My only comment, I don't see any sight distance issues, but I think on the other project, one of the other projects you're talking about, a sign in the middle of the crosswalk that yield to peds, which I think this would be an excellent application.
It's an always stop control intersection, so they would have to stop.
Okay, all right. So the other one is uncontrolled. Okay. So yeah, I think this is a good project. The next, number 2. Any comments?
I have a comment. I didn't realize that the city had a Cayenne Road. I thought that was still Broadway on that curve. I'm pretty familiar with Old Escondido, and I thought that was just Broadway curving through there. So when I found out that few 100-foot stretch actually had its own name, I was surprised, though.
I learned that also.
I have a situation like this in my neighborhood, and there's probably a crash every other year, a very hard left, and eventually we put in more of these kind of yield signs, nothing solar powered, and you still get a crash here and there. It's just nothing you can do. And they aren't solar powered, but I think the problem with this is a driveway right there, so the placement's going to be kind of challenging. So you just have those two on the side. You want it kind of so the driver sees it right in front of them, but you see the driveway there. So there's 2 signs proposed?
Yes. The advanced warning with the advisory speed and then
Right.
the arrow.
Right. Could we add another arrow just to the other side of the driveway? Doesn't have to be solar, just,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in this exact placement where
Okay.
the existing is also. We'll field adjust.
I consider a few more, just regular of the turn signs. I think the more of those you have, the driver sees that better, in my opinion. Next project. Any comment here? I had a general comment just about, we have this a lot where you have, obviously the city code is you build a road a certain width, it's straight, so cars go fast in residential streets. And I think the radar speed signs work pretty well. I'm just curious if staff has any other tools in their toolbox. I was thinking about little mini traffic circles at intersections, not a roundabout, just a little mini 5-footer to stick in the middle of the road, which is attractive, but again, slows down cars because it blocks their view. Do we have any of those anywhere? Or?
As far as traffic, they're building roundabouts.
Just a little circle, which could be in the intersection, but it just, it makes the driver aware and have them, make a little curve.
I don't know of any traffic circles in Escondido at this moment. We're proposing the radar speed feedback signs mainly because of the vertical curvature of the roadway. It's easier for, to catch cars going downhill at speed, and if whether they work or not, they're replaceable, easily to take down.
All right, next project. Comments to this one?
This one's 24,000, and mainly because of the curb ramp installation.
This one looks on the wrong side of the street.
Yeah, I was curious why you had it on that side of the intersection as opposed to the near side, whether it was visibility or it could, because it seemed like the picture that you had of the pedestrians, that more of them were crossing, and with the parking lot being at this corner where parents park, that the near side is where more people are probably naturally crossing.
Yeah, I think naturally they have an agreement with the church for parents to park here and have the children walk across. I think initially the thought was that this portion of the roadway doesn't get very much traffic, so to have them cross on that side of the street.
But don't they have to cross again?
They would have to cross.
Across Gretna.
Yeah, cross Gretna, which would be stop controlled, and then to get across. I mean, we could take a look at both sides.
Yeah, I would ask you to consider looking at put the crossing on the other side. That seems to be where they go, because people like to take the shortest route, and if they're going to the parking lot at the church, they're going to go the near side.
But it also does look like they're walking diagonal across.
Exactly, yes.
To that side. So.
Well, they're walking to their driveway there, yeah. So we don't want to do a diagonal crossing, though. Okay, any more comments on this item? Motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Aye, opposed? None? Okay. Let's actually go ahead and talk about the other item we just talked about, which was the crosswalk policy. And I guess my first comment is what's from 2017. I'm not sure when the city of San Diego updated theirs. I mean, they do update them on a more regular basis. It's 6 years old.
So coincidentally, I wrote the city, I was on the project manager for updating the crosswalk policy for San Diego. It was updated in 2013, 2014. Prior to that, I believe their crosswalk policy, I think, was from like 1993. And prior to that, the city of San Diego in the 70s had done an extensive study and coined the term false sense of security when the industry started to remove marked crosswalks across the nation. So, but yeah, I did notice once I started working here, and I kind of compared because I'd heard that it was modeled after San Diego. The gentleman that spoke was correct that there are differences between the Escondido and City of San Diego policies. I can't speak to the decisions that were made for the policy that was drafted or approved at that time, so it wasn't here, but it's definitely something that I think that we can look at.
One action that we could make is to actually ask staff to review and see if it warrants updating the crosswalk policy.
I would note that we are also in the early stages of developing a comprehensive active transportation policy or plan that Craig Williams is managing, and that could be possibly something we could look at as part of that effort.
As a part of the Grand Avenue Vision Plan, is there already, I know you probably did some traffic analysis of the Grand Avenue, but did it bleed over into connectivity with neighborhoods, or?
Not that I know of.
Okay. I mean, I do think, obviously, connectivity to our downtown is important, as the speaker noted. I think, obviously, those are two very busy streets, and so adding crosswalks without some kind of stop control, I think, is something to be considered. But aside from, branching out of the active transportation plan into more of a, a downtown connectivity plan, I'm not sure what the action item is. Any suggestions?
How long would it take you to come back with something for the commission to look at regarding these comparisons and changing our policies? Would it be a year from now, 2 years from now, or 3 months from now?
I would say, given our staffing levels and workload, most likely at least a year from now.
Because I agree with the gentleman that downtown, I try to go to some of the restaurants downtown, and I park somewhere out there, and I walk, and it is not safe. And honestly, my wife says, let's not go downtown Escondido, let's go Rancho Bernardo or somewhere else, which I mean, it's, and maybe I'm a very small customer, but downtown is very important for us. Is there any way we can accelerate at least an evaluation of that area in downtown rather than wait for a year for things to be changed?
Yeah, so I was trying to think, the Grand Avenue project, there is a way to look at that, but,
But just to clarify, I wouldn't say it would be a year to evaluate all of downtown to develop a plan, so much as us looking at the different policies and things to see what differences that we can bring back and present to you guys. I mean, we can come back with an update, maybe at the October meeting, and just start to look at our different policies and differences between them, between San Diego and Escondido. And
well, I think that there's two things. One, I think, is updating the policy, but number two would be really looking at more of the connectivity of downtown to the neighborhoods and try and improve that. You know, as we're bringing downtown to the forefront, making it more walkable, you know, adding the angular parking, you know, adding the festoon lighting. I mean, we're making that a destination. So let's try and get people there, you know, beside traveling with a car. Or if a car, they have to, you know. I know there's been issues with parking downtown for years. And so there's a parking structure invented at one time. So I'm sure Julie knows all about it.
Yes. So we are in the process of selecting a consultant to complete a comprehensive active transportation strategy. And as a part of that, we'll be looking at areas like schools, parks, and downtown in particular to look at ways that we can improve transportation connectivity and to help us prioritize where we should focus the limited funds that we have to make improvements. So Commissioner Thornburg, your observation was quite good in that a signal is likely the required protections required for a pedestrian crossing at that location. And I think it's a fantastic idea to incorporate a pedestrian signal. It's something that we've done on multiple locations along the Creek Trail. We've been extremely successful at finding grant funding for those projects. And so I would say that since we're just embarking upon this journey to help us receive comments and feedback from the public, to help us prioritize where we should focus our attention and our resources, that it would be best to really allow that process to happen. And I think your comments are very much noted, that looking toward downtown and making that an area for priority is something that we very much want to do. But we don't have the resources at this point in time to do a separate evaluation. We have a pretty substantial retention and recruitment problem right now. Most cities are experiencing that as well. We have a 23% vacancy rate in the engineering group. And so we are working to push forward as many projects as we can and really try to leverage resources from very qualified and experienced consultants to help us engage the public so that we can accomplish the mission of the city. So I hope that gives a little bit of context to Ed's previous response on the cats. And at the same time, we recognize the need to look at our policies. We've brought up, Craig actually is a bike and ped guru. We're very lucky to have him as a part of our team, and he's mentioned this need to align our crosswalk policy and try to look for opportunities to make it, more modern. And so that is going to be a part of the consultant services that we'll be asking for when we hire our consultant. And we're actually finishing interviews on Monday, and we hope to be able to report next time that we've started the work. And we'll certainly take your feedback and guidance and bring back some information as to what they come up with in the downtown area as quickly as we can. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Procopio. Comments on that, or?
Well, it came to mind, I really like the idea of a pedestrian signal going in to utilize that crosswalk, so a crosswalk can be installed there at Kamai and 2nd. And I just thought about how it's kind of a newer one that was installed on South Broadway, and I'm sorry, my memory's left me, but it's near the road that leads to the senior center right there by the laundromat. There's a pedestrian signal there now and a crosswalk for assistance for people to cross, so maybe we could get something similar.
I mean, there is a traffic signal priority list, correct?
There is a traffic signal priority list. The device that you're referring to is the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. on Broadway. It was installed by Caltrans when they did their improvements at that location. But we do have a traffic signal priority list that we're still trying to get funding for complete construction of those signal projects.
Could we bring that to the next meeting, just the signal priority list?
Sure.
Thank you. Want to move on to item B, which is the engineering traffic surveys? Unless Rachel, you have comments? Okay.
Okay. Now, the certification of new speed surveys. As always, we like to present the correlation between speed and safety. First, speed limits are set based on the 85th percentile speed based by state law. Speeding is the leading cause of fatal car collisions in the U.S., and aggressive driving causes over 50% of collisions in the U.S. And again, as speeds increases, pedestrian survivability decreases, as you see from the figure. A vehicle traveling 40 miles per hour, pedestrian colliding with a pedestrian, they have a 20% chance of survival. So we like to promote Go Slow and ESCO. As you see the police on their social media accounts, always showing their speed enforcement that they're doing. So speed surveys, we have over 200 speed segments in the city. Speed surveys must be updated periodically, every 5, 7, or 14 years per the California Vehicle Code. This update ensures that speed limits reflect current conditions. California Vehicle Code Section 22358.6 requires speed limits to be posted at the nearest 5-mile-an-hour increment to that 85th percentile speed. And the 85th percentile speed is calculated based on prevailing speeds of at least 100 vehicles. So in determining a speed limit, we collect vehicle speed data, we determine that 85th percentile speed, and then we round that speed. Based on rounding, the typical way to do that is if you have an 85th percentile speed, say 37 miles per hour, it would be rounded down to 35. If it showed to be 38, you would round up to 40. Per Vehicle Code 22358.6, that was added based on Assembly Bill 43 in January of 2022, gives the provision for locals to, instead of rounding up to round down, so that 38 miles an hour, which would typically round up, could be rounded down to 35 miles an hour. We also look at accident data. We source it through our Crossroads database that is maintained by the city's police department, looking at a 3-year time frame and comparing that to statewide accident rates for different roadway classifications. So for this round, we have 4 segments that we're making speed limit recommendations. 3 of the locations are maintaining their existing speed limits, and 1 is recommending a lower speed limit. 3 of them we had to round down, or we opted to round down from the 85th percentile speed. And Vermont Avenue is the street that we're proposing to go from 35 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. So staff is asking the commission to approve staff's recommendation to certify the proposed speed limits and recommend to council to approve the reduction of a posted speed limit on one segment by 5 miles an hour. Question?
How much?
I move we certify.
And Chair Thornburg, we do have one public comment on this item.
Okay.
Mark.
Please.
Thank you again, commissioners. I wasn't planning on saying anything on this, but Commissioner Thornburg, you made an incredibly good point in the last topic on the agenda about how our road design influences our speeds. I understand the need to address immediate problems with signage, but from all the research that's coming out, if you need to put up a sign and a radar, the road design is usually the issue. Wide, straight stretches of road encourage speeding. So as we are looking forward, to future road improvements, we really need to consider whether bulb outs are going to be more effective in certain places rather than putting up signage to actually calm traffic in a physical way rather than encouraging people through signage that they may or may not follow. So thank you guys for looking into this again.
Thank you. Comment on that. I know City of Carlsbad has really kind of changed their policies in trying to really slow speeds and adding as many pedestrian calming devices as they can to all of their residential streets. So they may have a different budget than we have, but something to consider as we review projects that come into the city. So we have a motion from Commissioner Durney.
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to that, you were showing that Valley Parkway is 60 miles per hour.
Valley Center Parkway, yes, is currently posted 60 miles an hour.
You still recommend it at 60?
Based on the 85th percentile speed, the 85th percentile speed is 64 miles an hour. So the options are either to round it up to 65 or round it down to 60.
Do you think 60 is safe?
Based on the data and what we're required to do by law, we would post it at 60 miles an hour.
Law or if somebody would prefer a regulation somewhere?
I'm sorry?
Is it the law or regulation somewhere?
It's California state law.
I personally believe 60 miles per hour on such a stretch, especially that it is a straight stretch with people going that fast, is a little bit high. So, okay. If it's the law, it's the law.
Okay, we have a second from Ms. Kassenbaum.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Alberto. Next up on the agenda is old business, which is no presentation. What's Craig been doing? Oh, good. Any comments on what was included in the staff report?
There's an awful lot of information in there, and we just wanted to be prepared to answer any questions you might have. So, a lot going on in the city, and happy to see that.
With the recent rains, has that impacted a lot, or have things gone back on schedule with some of these projects? Did the recent rains cause a big disruption to the projects as far as, I've seen roads washed out all over the state and stuff, but did we have any big problems with our projects?
I can speak to one particular one I've been managing over the last few months, crossings at Escondido Creek Trail and Quince and Tulip. We did have some rain delays, but I don't know that it's made any substantial difference. I don't know that I should speak to some of the pavement issues that we have as a result, but I think all cities are always feel the impact of a lot of rain, and the traffic on the roadways itself. It tends to break it up sooner than we would want it to. Anyway, I don't know if somebody else wants to. All right.
I'd be happy to give you some feedback. Julie Procopio, city engineer. So we've picked the worst time ever to build a bridge across the Escondido Creek. January through March, we had 100 working days, and 30 of them were rain days officially because it was raining. And the other days were spent taking sediment, silt, water out of the foundations that we were trying to build on the bridge. So we've lost a few months on the Citricado Parkway project as a result of that. We're lucky that we have a very good contractor that is working very hard and hopes to make up the time a little later on in the schedule. But we're definitely dealing with a situation on the sound walls where we have, we have just a lot more water than we had anticipated. So we're working through that. The construction timing is likely to be extended by a few months. But I think that is probably the project that is most affected by rain. A number of the rest of our projects, I think, If there have been some delays, it has been related to just supply chain issues, getting materials. Meter cabinets have suddenly, they used to take like 3 months, and now they're 9 to 12 months to receive a meter cabinet. So each of our signals, most of our signals require a new meter pedestal and cabinet. So so that's been a little bit of an unexpected situation. But overall, I think that our projects are starting to recover from those impacts of the pandemic, and we're starting to be able to predict a little more what material delivery times will be and our lead times on our longer lead projects. And so I think we're getting to a point where we're getting ready to energize a pedestrian signal at Midway. We've got a couple more that are well under construction at Tulip and Quince, and so we have quite a bit going on right now. So hopefully that answers your question. Unfortunately, Citricato has been negatively impacted, but we're working through it.
It does, and I'm most familiar with the Citricato Extension Project. That's the one I see just about every day, and
I know.
I've seen the lakes appear down at the bridge, and it's like, oh boy.
Yes, just if we could have been just a couple months earlier. I know San Marcos got their bridges in, just their foundations in just before the rainy season, and they've been able to continue to move forward through this rain, and we didn't quite make it. So, but we'll get it done. We're working at it. We've got a great team out there, and the work product will be excellent when it's done. And we're looking at late spring, early summer opening. So looking forward to that.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Quick question, I guess the Grand Avenue project, we talked about this, but I'm sure it's adding parking, correct? Because you're going from the parallel to angular, so.
Yes, so between Juniper and Escondido, we've already restriped. And so right now there's diagonal parking on one side, except between Calmia and Broadway where it's on both sides, and that's temporary on both sides because the next phase will actually widen the sidewalk between Maple and Juniper. And so that, and build a traffic circle on Broadway. So that widening of the sidewalk will mean that we can have diagonal parking only on one side, and then the other side will be a parallel parking. So we've added quite a bit of parking through that. We'll be looking at other opportunities, but I can tell you that the businesses out there have really changed their tune. They're much more excited about outdoor spaces than they are about parking. They've seen during the pandemic how having tables outside has really added to the vibrancy of their business and the visibility of their business, and it's added to downtown overall. So we're hopeful that we'll get a lot more yeses from the businesses on permanent outdoor dining areas as we start to expand those sidewalks. So
Great, thank you.
very exciting, yes. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions, the commissioners? Anything to bring up, new business? I guess, Clerk Beck, as far as our action items for staff from our robust discussion of crossing of Second Avenue,
Yeah.
what do we have in the minutes?
Yeah, so we can go with a traffic signal review, I believe is what we have scheduled for the next upcoming council meeting, or next coming commission meeting. And I believe you said for October, not the July meeting? You could still make it to July?
It's the traffic signal priority list.
Priority list, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was scheduled for July as opposed to October?
That was an action item we asked.
I know, but I know you wanted to come back with, that's what I had listed, was to have a secondary review. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The crosswalk policy in October is fine.
Okay, and traffic signal priority list in July.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
I'll second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.